This heartwarming story begins with a curious dog from the state of Colorado, a place known for its vast landscapes and chilly winters. He wasn't a small dog by any means. He was a big, beautiful black dog with subtle brown tints in his fur, and he loved nothing more than to explore the world around him. Whether the weather was sweltering hot or freezing cold, this dog, named Frederick by the locals, always found a way to have fun. He was the kind of dog who thrived in the outdoors, and the harsh Colorado winters had toughened him up. He was resilient and strong, always up for an adventure, and nothing could seem to hold him back. On a particularly cold winter's day, Frederick was out for one of his usual walks. The chill in the air didn't bother him, as his thick coat provided all the warmth he needed. As he trotted down the path, something peculiar caught his attention. Ahead, there was a tall wooden fence, adjacent to a cement wall. Between the fence and the wall was a narrow opening that couldn't have been more than 25 centimeters wide. Frederick's curiosity was immediately piqued. He moved closer to investigate the gap, peering through to see what was on the other side. To Frederick's disappointment, the space appeared empty. But his inquisitive nature wouldn't allow him to leave it at that. He wanted to explore further, so he did what any curious dog would do. He attempted to squeeze into the opening. First, he pushed one paw into the gap, and when that worked, he followed with the next. Before he knew it, Frederick had wedged his entire body into the tight space. But then, disaster struck. The opening was much smaller than Frederick had anticipated, and as he tried to back out, he found himself stuck. His large frame wouldn't budge, no matter how hard he struggled. Panic set in as he realized he was trapped between the fence and the cement wall. Desperation kicked in, and Frederick began to cry out, hoping someone might hear him. Fortunately for Frederick, his cries did not go unnoticed. Denver Animal Protection Officer Jenna Humphreys was on patrol nearby when she received a call about a dog in distress. A concerned passerby had heard the dog's cries and contacted Animal Protection. Humphreys, along with a colleague, rushed to the scene. When they arrived, they could only see a small part of Frederick's head sticking out from the narrow opening. They were both baffled at how such a large dog had managed to wedge himself into such a small space. But there wasn't time to dwell on that. They had a rescue mission on their hands. First, the officers knew they had to calm the panicked dog. Humphreys offered Frederick some treats to soothe him while they figured out the best way to extract him from the tight gap. It was a delicate situation. Frederick was extremely uncomfortable, and they didn't want to hurt him. Slowly but surely, with careful maneuvering and lots of encouragement, they were able to free Frederick from his predicament. When Frederick finally emerged, he was shaken but visibly relieved. The officers checked him over and found that he had sustained some minor injuries from the ordeal, but nothing too serious. He was brought to the Denver Animal Shelter, where he received medical attention and was given a warm place to rest. Frederick's owner was never found, but the rescuers gave him a new name, Frederick, and he was soon up for adoption. His tale of survival quickly spread, and many people expressed interest in giving this adventurous dog a forever home. Just as Frederick's story shows the determination and curiosity of dogs, there's another tale that showcases the same adventurous spirit, this time with a cat. It's no secret that cats often find themselves in the strangest and most unlikely places. And the next story proves just how resourceful and mischievous these furry creatures can be. In Sydney, Australia, a family was enjoying a quiet afternoon when they heard an odd sound coming from somewhere inside their home. At first, they dismissed it, thinking it might just be the house settling or a distant noise from outside. But when the strange sound persisted, they became concerned. It sounded almost like a faint meow, but the family didn't own a cat. Could it have been a neighbor's cat that had wandered into their house, or was it something else entirely? The sound continued, and after a thorough search of the house, the family realized that the mysterious noise was coming from within their own walls. Alarmed, they called the local fire and rescue team for assistance. The firefighters arrived quickly, and after listening carefully, confirmed that there was indeed an animal trapped behind the wall. To locate the exact spot where the sound was coming from, the firefighters used thermal imaging technology. Sure enough, they identified the source. A small kitten was stuck behind the wall, likely having crawled in through some hidden crevice. The rescue team sprang into action, carefully cutting a small square into the wall to free the trapped animal. After a few tense moments, the firefighters pulled out a tiny, scared, and very cute orange kitten. The family was relieved that the kitten was unharmed and couldn't believe their luck. They had no idea where the kitten had come from or how long it had been stuck behind the wall, but they quickly decided they couldn't part with the little furball. The once stray kitten now had a loving home, and it seemed as though it was meant to be. As heartwarming as these stories are, the final tale takes the rescue theme to a whole new level. This time, it involves not just one kitten, but an entire litter of them, and the discovery was nothing short of a surprise. A woman had been hearing strange noises in her home for days. At first, she thought it was just the usual sounds of her busy household. Her children often filled the house with noise, and she figured the sound was just part of the daily hustle and bustle. But as the days went on, the sound persisted, and it started to sound eerily like crying. The woman couldn't figure out where it was coming from, and it grew louder with each passing day. The strange cries became more frequent, and eventually, the woman realized the sound was coming from her living room. She and her children searched the area, thinking it might be a malfunctioning device or something stuck behind the furniture. But as they drew closer to the wall behind the television, the crying grew even louder. There was only one way to solve the mystery. The woman grabbed a hammer and carefully broke through the plaster of her wall, creating a small hole just big enough for her hand. She reached in, and to her shock, she felt something soft and furry. Gently, she pulled out a tiny kitten, its fur fluffy and its eyes wide with fear. But the crying didn't stop. The woman put her hand back into the wall, only to pull out another kitten and then another. By the time she was done, she had rescued 4 tiny kittens from behind her living room wall, each one a different color and just as adorable as the last. It was a surreal moment, and her children were overjoyed at the discovery of the kittens. Though the whereabouts of the kitten's mother remained a mystery, the family took great care of their new furry friends. In the end, whether it's a curious dog named Frederick, an orange kitten trapped behind a wall, or a litter of kittens discovered in a family's home, these stories remind us of the joy and love that animals bring into our lives. Every rescue, no matter how big or small, is a reminder of the kindness and compassion that can change the course of an animal's life. And sometimes, just sometimes, that rescue can also change the lives of the humans who open their hearts to a new furry friend.